Imagine sinking slowly into the deep ocean, where the last rays of sunlight flicker and die like forgotten memories. The water presses in, heavy and unyielding, turning the world above into a distant dream. This is the silent frontier, Earth's last great unknown, covering more than 60% of our planet's surface yet hiding secrets we barely comprehend. Pressure here crushes steel as easily as eggshells, and eternal darkness reigns supreme. No wind stirs, no waves crash, just an endless hush broken only by the faint creak of your submersible. But even in this abyss, humanity's shadow stretches long and insidious. Have you ever wondered what happens when our noisy world invades this quiet realm? Tiny invaders drift down from the surface, invisible at first, carrying whispers of plastic and metal from distant shores. They tumble through layers of cold water, gathering companions in their descent. Something stirs below, waiting patiently for these gifts from above. Picture a single microplastic fiber, no wider than a human hair, spiraling deeper into the black void. It began its journey in a bustling factory or a sunlit beach, now condemned to wander the depths forever. Around it cluster others, a silent parade of bottles, bags, and fragments from our throwaway lives. These are not mere trash, but pioneers reshaping the ocean floor in ways we cannot yet fathom. Bacteria latch on, feasting on synthetic surfaces, evolving new hungers in the gloom. Amphipods scuttle over them, tiny scavengers building homes from our discarded dreams. The fiber sinks past midnight zones, where bioluminescent sparks wink like wary eyes. What strange alliances form in this graveyard of human excess? The pressure mounts, squeezing the invaders tighter, forcing chemical secrets into the water. Soon, this lone traveler brushes the seafloor, stirring silt that clouds the water like ghostly breath. The seafloor unfolds, a vast plain scarred by our carelessness, where ghost nets drift like spectral veils. These abandoned snares, lost from fishing fleets, ensnare not just fish but entire ecosystems in their tangled embrace. Massive hulls of sunken ships loom as artificial reefs, their rusting frames colonized by tube worms and corals that glow faintly in the dark. Barrels from old wars leak heavy metals, painting the sediment with toxic hues invisible to the eye. Sonar pings reveal unnatural shapes, mistaken at first for ancient ruins or slumbering leviathans. But no, these are echoes of satellites and submarines, relics of our ambition resting in eternal vigil. What life blooms from such poisoned soil? Strange microbes thrive on iron and cadmium, their metabolisms alien to surface dwellers. The net snags on a ridge, pulling taut, and something massive shifts in response. Our machines lie dormant, yet they whisper promises of change. Deeper still, beyond the debris fields, a new intrusion pulses with life. Follow the fiber as it weaves toward a glowing line slicing the darkness, a fiber-optic cable humming with the world's conversations. Thousands of these veins thread the ocean bed, carrying emails, videos, and secrets across continents at light speed. Electromagnetic fields emanate from them, faint beacons in the void, drawing curious creatures like moths to flame. Jellyfish drift closer, their bells pulsing in rhythm with the data flow, as if entranced by an unseen symphony. Plankton aggregate in unnatural blooms, shimmering clouds that defy natural cycles. Have these cables become arteries of a mechanical heart beating beneath the waves? Fish with heightened senses circle warily, their bodies twitching to invisible currents. The plastic fiber tangles briefly with the cable sheath, sparking a micro-event that ripples outward. In this fusion of tech and tide, the boundary between our world and theirs blurs. Now tension builds as unnatural lights pierce the abyss from submersible probes and mining drones. These mechanical eyes scan trenches, their beams carving stark paths through perpetual night. Sediments stir under thruster wash, unleashing plumes that smother fragile sponges and ancient corals. Deep-sea mining tests churn the floor, harvesting nodules rich in rare metals for our gadgets and batteries. Machines taller than houses scrape vast expanses, leaving barren scars the size of cities. Tailings spread like ink, traveling hundreds of kilometers to poison distant atolls. What awakens in the chaos of these disturbances? Methane bubbles rise from fractured sediments, shimmering with eerie fire, hinting at buried cataclysms. The water warms subtly from climate bleed, stirring long-dormant microbes into frenzy. Our technologies probe and plunder, but do they summon responses from the deep? Layer by layer, the ocean reveals its altered soul, where human heat disrupts cold currents long stable. Oxygen levels plummet in dead zones created by nutrient runoff from farmlands above. Armored scavengers evolve thicker shells against acidic waters laced with our pollutants. Transparent predators glow with ingested synthetics, their hunts now illuminated by false bioluminescence. These changes whisper of evolution accelerated, a Darwinian sprint fueled by our folly. Shrimp colonies cluster around leaking cables, their bodies hardening with metallic infusions. Fish schools veer from sonar blasts, their hearing frayed by relentless pings. Is this adaptation or aberration, a new ecology born of invasion? The plastic fiber, now encrusted with deep-sea growth, settles amid these hybrids. Horror lurks in the beauty, as nature mirrors our innovations back at us. Sinking further, the narrative turns chilling as ancient layers yield to our warming influence. Dormant methane clathrates crack open, releasing gas clouds that bloom like spectral flowers. These plumes alter chemistry, starving oxygen-dependent life while birthing extremophiles that feast on hydrocarbons. Jelly clouds expand, their tendrils ensnaring drones mistaking them for prey. The seafloor trembles faintly from distant quakes triggered by shifting pressures. Ghostly echoes on hydrophones suggest massive forms migrating unnaturally early. What intelligence stirs in these disrupted depths, drawn by our noisy intrusions? Cable faults spark brief lights, illuminating eyes that watch from cracks. The invaders from above now fuel a shadowy renaissance. Suspense coils as the abyss prepares its retort. Finally, from the crushing Hadal trenches, a gaze lifts toward the intruders. Data streams falter under biofouling from eager colonists, cables choked by tube worms. Mutated plankton drift upward, carrying toxins to surface fisheries we rely on. The deep ocean, once indifferent, now pulses with hybrid vigor, reflecting our digital age in flesh and fin. Glowing forms cluster around probe lights, their motions too purposeful, too aware. Have we not only scarred the frontier but invited its inhabitants to evolve in our image? The microplastic fiber, journey's end, dissolves into the ecosystem, a seed of perpetual change. Mystery lingers in every shadow, horror in every adaptation. The silent frontier stirs, whispering back across the void. What will it say when fully awake? Beneath the waves, where sunlight fades into eternal darkness, an unseen menace lurks, the ghost nets. These abandoned fishing nets, sometimes kilometers long and weighing tons, drift endlessly in the deep ocean. They are the silent killers of the sea, relentless and invisible to most. Forgotten by fishermen or lost in violent storms, these nets continue their deadly work long after their owners have gone. Marine creatures, from tiny fish to majestic turtles, become ensnared in their cruel embrace, struggling desperately to escape. Some live only long enough to suffer suffocation or mutilation before death claims them. Even the most powerful predators, like sharks and dolphins, are caught in this deadly trap, victims of human neglect. It's a haunting reminder that our reach extends far beyond cities and shores, deep into the ocean's darkest corners where these nets wreak havoc unnoticed. Ghost nets don't just trap animals. They reshape entire ecosystems with toxic persistence. Made mostly from synthetic plastics like nylon, these nets resist decay, taking hundreds of years to fragment. Over time, they deteriorate into smaller particles, microplastics, that invade the ocean's food chain. Microplastics have been found inside whales, dolphins, and even fish consumed by humans, raising serious health concerns. On coral reefs, these ghost nets drape like spectral curtains, smothering delicate corals and disrupting habitats. The once vibrant reefs grow silent and bleak, victim to the unseen hands of plastic strangulation. Every tangle and tear in these underwater forests ripples outward, threatening biodiversity and the natural rhythms of the sea. Many species dependent on these habitats for shelter and food suffer as a result, pushing fragile populations closer to collapse. What makes ghost nets truly chilling is their unpredictability and silent persistence. They drift across ocean currents, slipping far beyond borders and regulations, making cleanup a monumental challenge. For example, in the Gulf of Carpentaria, ghost nets accumulate due to prevailing currents and winds, forming dangerous hotspots where marine life congregates only to be ensnared. In some regions, tens of thousands of kilograms of ghost nets litter the seafloor, silently trapping life in invisible cages. The nets act like deadly snares that never stop hunting, long after they lose their initial purpose. Such pervasive pollution blurs the line between natural ocean dynamics and the ghostly remnants of human industry. How many more of these invisible predators roam the depths, beyond the reach of divers and scientists? This mystery haunts every ocean expedition, a question with no clear answer. Despite the horror they cause, these nets attract life in strange, paradoxical ways. Marine creatures, curious or desperate for refuge, sometimes use the nets as shelter or hunting grounds. Crabs, fish, and worms build strange communities around the frayed edges, creating toxic reefs born from human waste. This accidental ecosystem, however, is a cruel joke. Life here is safer, but only until the next struggle for survival. Entanglements lead to injuries that stunt growth or cause fatal infections. The nets trap food and oxygen around them, disrupting the natural flow of nutrients and leaving parts of the ocean floor suffocated. Such complex interactions blur the line between life and death in the ocean's twilight. How can something meant to catch fish turn into a death sentence for so many others? It's a grim reflection of nature attempting to adapt to human-created chaos. The social and economic implications of ghost nets add another layer of tragedy to this story. Fishermen lose valuable gear, representing years of investment, while the nets themselves become sweeping hazards that degrade fishing grounds. Coastal communities dependent on the ocean for livelihoods suffer as fish stocks dwindle and habitats die. Tourist beaches cloaked in debris deter visitors, darkening hopes for economic recovery. Efforts to retrieve and recycle ghost nets are underway, supported by governments, NGOs, and indigenous ranger groups. Innovative technologies like sonar mapping help locate these nets, and teams brave dangerous dives to remove them. Yet, this battle is far from over. The sheer scale of ghost nets flooding the seas requires stronger cooperation globally. Will humanity muster the will to tame this ghostly menace before it becomes oceanic folklore? Technological advances offer fleeting hope in this grim ocean saga. Improvements in tracking lost nets help fishermen reduce accidental loss, while biodegradable net materials aim to minimize long-term impact. Recycling initiatives turn retrieved ghost nets into new products, breaking cycles of waste and destruction. Educational campaigns, especially in young communities, foster awareness and change behavior to prevent future losses. But these efforts must scale dramatically to keep pace with the relentless tide of plastic. The ocean's invisible graveyards require constant vigilance, monitoring, and innovative responses. Can human ingenuity outpace the damage caused by centuries of ocean neglect? Our collective future depends on answering this urgent question with determination. The invisible tragedy of ghost nets urges us to rethink our relationship with the ocean's depths. These nets, remnants of our appetites and ambitions, tell a dark story of unintended consequences. They pull back a curtain on the deep sea's vulnerability and resilience alike, exposing the delicate balance between human activity and marine life. Beneath the waves, where mystery once reigned unchallenged, the nets form a new kind of nightmare, one woven by our own hands. Each tangled ghost net is a monument to humanity's reach and recklessness, yet also a call to action to restore and protect these shadowy waters. What if the ocean's silence is not just absence, but a warning echo? Listening may be our only way to save the deep ocean's fragile secrets. As we grapple with the ghost net's haunting legacy, the ocean quietly adapts. New ecosystems emerge where plastic and nature intertwine, strange alliances forged in desperation. Life finds a way, but in forms unfamiliar and unsettling. These new worlds reflect not just survival but mutation, evolution shaped by human footprint and plastic tides. The ghost nets remain, drifting endlessly, a dark thread through the fabric of marine existence. They remind us that the deep sea, once a refuge from human noise, now carries our legacy, twisted and persistent. With every net pulled from the abyss, are we undoing damage or merely delaying an inevitable reckoning? The sea's story is one of mystery and horror, made all the more real because it is ours. Beneath the unbroken surface of the world's oceans lies an invisible highway, a vast network of submarine communication cables that pulse silently with the heartbeat of our connected civilization. These cables, stretching hundreds of thousands of kilometers, carry every whispered conversation, every urgent message, and every digital footprint across continents in fractions of a second. But as these slender lifelines span the deep ocean, what marks do they leave on the fragile ecosystems that surround them? Imagine the ocean floor, a realm of mystery and quiet endurance, suddenly interrupted by human technology snaking along in bright parallel lines. How does this hidden infrastructure disturb the ancient seabed, and what new forms of life might it unwittingly nurture? The story of these cables is one of paradoxes, bridging worlds while reshaping the one they cross. Installation of undersea cables is a delicate and disruptive dance, one that briefly rips through sediments and disturbs marine habitats before leaving behind a permanent, foreign presence. While the disturbance might seem modest, covering less than 0.01% of the seafloor, the impact is profound in places where ecosystems are particularly fragile, such as coral reefs or seagrass beds. During burial, the seabed is churned up, stirring clouds of sediment that can suffocate nearby filter feeders or obscure predator vision. Yet, remarkably, these cables often become unexpected oases for marine life. Opportunistic species emerge first. Anemones, crustaceans, and small fish seizing hold on the solid surfaces, turning the cables into artificial reefs. This sudden burst of life contrasts with the prior disruption, creating a complex narrative of loss and renewal in the ocean's shadows. The cables themselves, often armored for protection or simply lying atop the sediment, serve as hard substrate in the soft, otherwise barren seabed. Sea anemones clasp tightly to these foreign bodies, opening their trembling tentacles to feed in the slow tidal currents. Strange communities of organisms cluster in neat rows along the cables, some species rarely seen in soft-bottom environments now flourishing in these narrow corridors of life. This phenomenon, called ecological succession, resembles how a burned forest regenerates in stages after a wildfire. First come the pioneers, hardy and fast-growing. But will these human-made reefs develop into stable ecosystems, or are they transient shadows destined to fade? The ocean's creatures are adapting quickly, but in ways science is just beginning to understand. What secrets are held in those fleeting new ecosystems, thriving at the edges of human reach? Beyond the biological, the cables subtly influence the chemistry and physics of the surrounding ocean. The armored cables can change local current patterns and sediment deposition, altering nutrient flows and oxygen availability. Buried cables may disturb organic carbon stored in sediments, potentially releasing greenhouse gases locked safely for millennia. Even electromagnetic fields emitted by active cables have attracted the curiosity of marine animals equipped with electroreceptors. Some sharks and rays, known for their sensitivity, appear to respond to the cable's faint hums, though whether this disrupts their navigation or behavior remains an open question. The interplay of technology and biology is nuanced, almost whispering of an unseen dialogue. Are these magnetic signals a beacon or a warning deep beneath the sea? The cables are not merely passive structures but nodes in a fast-growing global network. With the explosive demand for internet connectivity, new cables venture into previously untouched depths and more sensitive habitats, fueling concerns about cumulative impacts. This growth coincides with climate change pressures on the oceans, including warming, acidification, and oxygen loss, amplifying the risks to marine ecosystems already strained. In some places, carefully managed cable corridors have created protected zones, restricting fishing and anchoring to safeguard the infrastructure and local biodiversity. These cable parks illustrate a potential synergy where technology and conservation could coexist, But such initiatives are rare and localized. Can these fragile agreements between human progress and ocean health be scaled globally? Or will the deep sea become an unwitting battleground of competing interests? Despite their human origin, these cables foster a unique niche of life that might never have existed otherwise. Creatures adapted to clinging to rocks or coral are finding new footholds, while mobile animals graze on the increased abundance of invertebrates gathered there. The cables act as underwater highways themselves, facilitating the spread of species across ocean basins, some native, others invasive. This connectivity may accelerate changes in species distribution, reshuffling ecosystems with unpredictable consequences. We now observe communities that blur natural boundaries, forming a mosaic of old and new, wild and artificial. What evolutionary tales are unfolding along these threads, silently weaving themselves into the grand ocean narrative? The question of removal versus retention of decommissioned cables adds another layer of complexity. While some argue for complete recovery to restore natural seafloor conditions, others caution that disturbing long-established cable communities could cause more harm than leaving them in place. The sediments have stabilized around these structures, and over decades, a delicate balance has emerged. Removing cables risks upheaving sediment, releasing trapped carbon, and destroying habitats that depend on them. This dilemma underscores a fundamental challenge in ocean stewardship, understanding the unintended consequences of even well-intentioned actions. How do we weigh artificial reefs' ecological benefits against the principle of leaving the natural state undisturbed? These are the decisions shaping our legacy beneath the waves. As advances in marine technology continue, future cables may become smarter and more environmentally friendly, using less intrusive installation methods and materials that encourage biodiversity without pollution. Scientists are exploring options like biodegradable sheaths and monitoring sensors embedded to track environmental changes and potential damage from natural hazards. These innovations offer hope that humanity can knit itself more harmoniously into the ocean fabric, preserving both connectivity and conservation. But hope alone is not enough. Vigilance, regulation, and scientific research must guide every new cable laid deep beneath the sea to minimize its footprint. The ocean's silent highways must also become pathways to wiser coexistence. Looking across the dark ocean floor, lit only by bioluminescence and the faint glow of cable markers, one can sense the fragile balance between technology and life. These cables, arteries of the digital world, pulse beneath an ancient, mysterious realm enduring beyond our everyday sight. Their presence is a reminder that our modern lives have roots stretching into the deep, reaching into ecosystems shaped over millions of years. Every message sent across these cables carries not just data but a fragment of human impact on one of Earth's final frontiers. The cables whisper secrets of a strange partnership, where human invention and ocean life intersect in unexpected ways. What will the next chapter of this entwined story reveal, and what legacy will we leave on this silent, shadowed world? Deep in the crushing blackness of the ocean's midnight zone, something ancient stirs from its millennial slumber, awakened not by natural rhythms, but by the insidious creep of human warmth and waste. Picture vast layers of sediment, frozen in time for eons, now fracturing under the subtle heat bleeding down from our warming surface waters. Methane clathrates, those icy cages trapping potent greenhouse gases, begin to destabilize like brittle glass under pressure. Bubbles rise in shimmering veils, carrying whispers of fire-cold chemistry that no eye has witnessed until now. These plumes twist through the water column, altering chemistry in ways that suffocate familiar life forms. Oxygen vanishes from once stable currents, leaving ghostly trails where ecosystems once thrived. What primordial forces have we roused in our technological frenzy? The deep sea, long indifferent, now responds with a chilling metamorphosis. Microbes long dormant awaken, their metabolisms shifting to feast on hydrocarbons released into the flow. Horror simmers in this unseen alchemy, as nature's balance tips toward the unknown. Follow one such bubble upward from the fractured seabed, its surface iridescent with trapped gases that could fuel cataclysms on the surface world. Around it cluster jelly-like clouds, expanding tendrils that pulse with unnatural vigor fueled by nutrient surges from distant pollution. These gelatinous masses, once rare transients, now dominate the water, their forms twisting like spectral spirits in the faint glow of bioluminescent prey. They ensnare smaller creatures, drawing them into translucent maws that dissolve flesh with enzymatic fury. The water thickens with their presence, blocking light and oxygen from reaching the floor below. Ancient sponges, millennia-old sentinels, wither under the onslaught, their skeletons crumbling into silt. Have these jellies evolved in secret, adapting to our chemical gifts with predatory glee? The plume spreads, carrying toxins that mutate passing fish into translucent horrors. Pressure waves from rising gases ripple outward, dislodging nodules that tumble like apocalyptic dice. In this awakening, the abyss reveals its vengeful heart. Deeper still, where hadal pressures forge diamonds from carbon, the true horror unfolds in microbial frenzy. Extremophiles, survivors of Earth's harshest crucibles, explode in numbers, converting methane into energy with alien efficiency. Their blooms form vast mats that carpet the seafloor, smothering burrowing worms and crustaceans in suffocating embrace. Chemical signatures shift dramatically, acidity rising to etch away calcium shells of deep-sea corals. Plankton from above, laced with microplastics, sink into this cauldron, fueling hybrid metabolisms never dreamed in labs. What intelligence lurks in these bacterial hordes, communicating through quorum sensing across kilometers? Drones probing the chaos capture footage of glowing veils that part to reveal eyes, countless, unblinking. The water hums with activity, a symphony of decay and rebirth echoing through hydrophones. Our technologies have pierced the veil, inviting chaos from the depths. Suspense builds as larger forms sense the disturbance, migrating toward the light of intrusion. Transitioning from chemical upheaval, massive predators emerge changed, their bodies etched with scars from acidic incursions. Giant squid, lords of the dark, display iridescent lesions from pollutant uptake, their tentacles coiling with unnatural speed. Schools of lanternfish veer erratically, blinded by sediment plumes that cloud their photon-hungry world. These plumes, born from mining tests and waste discharge, spread toxins across basins, poisoning food webs from bottom to top. Filter feeders clog with heavy metals, their gills failing in silent agony. Have we engineered a cascade where apex hunters starve amid abundance? Echoes of grinding machinery reverberate, drawing curious leviathans into fatal proximity. The seafloor scars from collector vehicles remain barren, decades after passage, a testament to irreversible loss. Jelly clouds pulse brighter, incorporating synthetic glows into their allure. Mystery cloaks this evolution, hinting at forms yet to surface. In trenches carved by plate tectonics, the awakening intensifies as seismic whispers amplify under thermal stress. Fault lines groan, releasing puffs of hydrogen sulfide that birth chemosynthetic oases amid desolation. Tube worms, blind architects, erupt in forests around vents, their red plumes waving like blood flags in toxic currents. Yet intruders disrupt this cycle. Warm wastewater from distant rigs overheats the brine pools, boiling delicate life outright. Bubbles of gas ignite spontaneously in oxygen pockets, fleeting fireballs illuminating horrors below. What ancient DNA, preserved in permafrost-like sediments, now replicates wildly. Predatory isopods, armored in metallic sheaths, scuttle over dying corals, scavenging the fallout. The water column stratifies unnaturally, trapping heat and death in layers. Our probes capture fleeting shadows, elongated, purposeful, circling the lights. Dread mounts as the deep reconfigures into something alien and aware. Layer upon layer, the narrative of disturbance weaves through biology and geology alike. Biodiversity plummets by halves in plume paths, species vanishing before catalogs complete. Carbon sinks rupture, methane surging to exacerbate the warming that birthed it, a feedback loop of planetary peril. Sponges and corals, ecosystem engineers, collapse under smothering sediments, toppling food pyramids. Mobile fauna flee, only to starve in barren expanses beyond. Is this apocalypse or genesis, a forge for post-human life? Glowing anemones cluster around wreckage, their stings laced with novel venoms. Hydrophones record unnatural choruses, clicks evolving into patterned calls. The abyss, once silent, now murmurs secrets in voices not its own. Humanity's touch lingers, a catalyst for metamorphosis profound and terrifying. As chaos propagates, surface echoes emerge in tainted fisheries and bleached atolls far away. Toxins bioaccumulate, rendering harvests poisonous to coastal kin. Climate models falter, underestimating deep releases that propel warming unchecked. Jelly invasions choke salps, disrupting carbon pumps vital to breathable air. Have we awakened a biosphere that will outlast and out-evolve us? Probes vanish into tendrils, transmissions cutting to static whispers. Mutated squid flash signals mimicking sonar pings, luring vessels to doom. The seafloor undulates with mat growth, burying relics in organic tombs. Horror resides not in monsters, but in the quiet reconfiguration of reality itself. Questions linger. Will equilibrium return, or has the genie escaped forever? From the heart of this turmoil, a profound truth emerges. The deep ocean mirrors our hubris, transforming intrusion into inheritance. Methane veils dissipate slowly, leaving sterile expanses haunted by ghosts of abundance. Extremophiles persist, seeding new ecologies resilient to our poisons. Larger forms adapt stealthily, senses honed to exploit our noise and light. The awakening depths pulse with potential, a canvas for evolution unbound. What watchful intelligence coalesces in trenches, pondering the lights above. Bubbles rise still, carrying omens to sunlit seas. Mystery endures in every shadow, mild horror in adaptation's inexorable march. The silent frontier evolves, whispering of consequences cascading unseen. In its gaze, we glimpse our fragile dominion, teetering on awakening's edge. The deep ocean, once thought to be a realm untouched by human influence, now bears the subtle but profound marks of our industrial age. Among the most insidious changes is ocean acidification, a chemical transformation wrought by the relentless absorption of carbon dioxide from our atmosphere into the sea. Imagine the ocean's waters gradually shifting from their natural balance toward increasing acidity, a slow burn that threatens the very foundations of marine life. This acidification acts like a corrosive fog, dissolving the calcium carbonate shells and skeletons that many ocean creatures rely on for survival. Corals, mollusks, and microscopic plankton face the brunt of this assault, their delicate structures weakening and succumbing to the invisible chemical attack. How does a drop in pH ripple across the web of life submerged in eternal darkness? The answer reveals a story of vulnerability and adaptation, mystery and menace mingling in crushing depths. Many marine organisms depend on carbonate ions to build and maintain their shells and skeletons. Yet as the ocean absorbs CO2, these ions become scarce, making it harder for creatures to grow protective armor. Mollusk larvae struggle to develop strong shells, leading to shape distortions or death before they can fend for themselves. Coral reefs, the architectural marvels of underwater ecosystems, face bleaching and structural collapse when acidification hinders their calcification processes. Extending this damage downward, deep-sea corals, which grow slowly over centuries, lose the ability to maintain their skeletal fortresses, jeopardizing habitats for countless species. The loss of coral reefs spells disaster beyond aesthetics. It dismantles biodiversity hotbeds that sustain complex food webs. Could these silent victims of chemistry become the ocean's first casualties in our warming world? Beyond calcifiers, the effects cascade upward through the marine food chain. Filter-feeding creatures, such as sea urchins and some plankton species, absorb acids and microplastics together, weakening metabolism and reproductive success. Fish that prey upon these weakened species face less abundant or less nutritious fare, forcing nutritional crises. Scientists have observed abnormal behaviors in fish under acidic conditions, impaired navigation, slower reflexes, and depressed predator avoidance, threatening population stability. Ocean acidification even affects bioacoustics, diminishing fish ability to detect and respond to sounds critical for survival. The Twilight Zone's night chorus could become a dissonant, muted silence. How much can a food web adapt before it unravels? Every shift hints at a slow-motion unraveling of underwater life support. Yet not every organism is doomed. Some respond with surprising resilience or even opportunism. Certain algae and seagrasses, using dissolved CO2 for photosynthesis, may flourish under acidified conditions, outcompeting calcifiers. However, this imbalance may favor species that disrupt traditional ecosystems, encouraging harmful algal blooms and oxygen-depleted zones. While crustaceans such as crabs and lobsters appear less sensitive to acidification, their future depends on prey availability and habitat conditions still threatened by chemistry shifts. The sensitivity varies widely, revealing the ocean's complexity and unpredictability when faced with chemical stressors. This variability stokes dramatic questions. Will the ocean evolve stable new ecosystems, or collapse under competing pressures? We stand at a tipping point, watching life's resilience tested like never before. These biochemical upheavals ripple across human economies and cultures reliant on marine health. Ocean acidification threatens fisheries and aquaculture, industries that feed millions and support coastal livelihoods. Oyster farms on both North American coasts have already reported massive larval die-offs linked to acidified waters, dealing economic blows to producers. Coral reef degradation impacts tourism, fisheries, and shoreline protection, risking billions in ecosystem services. Indigenous peoples whose identities entwine with ocean stewardship face cultural erosion as marine resources shift or vanish. The ocean's slow chemical shift emerges as a global crisis extending beyond biology into social and economic fabrics. How will societies adapt when foundational species fail or become unreliable? The stakes demand urgent attention and coordinated action to safeguard both life beneath waves and human communities. Marine scientists worldwide mobilize to unravel acidification's full scope and foresee future scenarios. Laboratory experiments and field studies compare species sensitivity, revealing patterns critical to climate models. Long-term monitoring uncovers subtle changes in water chemistry, plankton populations, and coral growth rates, sometimes elusive but steadily accelerating. Technological advances allow researchers to observe deep-sea ecosystems in unprecedented detail, identifying vulnerable hotspots and resilient refuges. Collaboration among governments, NGOs, and scientists fosters data sharing and protective legislation for key ecosystems. Yet uncertainties hover around intricate food web responses and synergistic effects with warming, deoxygenation, and pollution. Can predictive science outpace rapid acidification to guide effective interventions? Mitigation efforts combine global emissions reductions with localized adaptation strategies. Marine protected areas aim to shield sensitive habitats from cumulative stressors, while hatcheries and restoration projects nurture vulnerable species like corals and shellfish. Innovative breeding programs explore resilience traits to cultivate acidification-tolerant organisms. Public awareness campaigns highlight the ocean's fragility and link individual choices to planetary outcomes. Yet, even with best intentions, the sheer scale and pace of change challenge conservation and policy mechanisms. The ocean's chemistry does not rest. Its transformation continues silently, invisibly beneath waves. How much time remains to act before irreversible thresholds are crossed? The ocean asks us not only to listen but to respond with unprecedented commitment. Amidst the looming threat, the ocean's mysteries deepen. What unknown life forms may emerge or vanish as chemistry changes the rules of survival? Could deep habitats act as refuges, sheltering remnant populations or fostering novel evolutionary paths? The twilight zones and abyssal plains experience chemical shifts that ripple far beyond their shadowy expanses. Answers lie buried within uncharted territories and unmeasured interactions. A hidden drama unfolding over decades and centuries. Our narratives blend scientific inquiry with speculative wonder, imagining futures where adaptation and loss entwine. How will deep ocean life write its next chapter as we continue to reshape its world? The pulse beneath the waves asks us to ponder our place, responsibility, and legacy in this vast aquatic theater. Ocean acidification paints a sobering portrait of humanity's footprint in the sea's depths. A slow but relentless transformation threatening life's very scaffolding. The fate of calcifying organisms offers a barometer for ecosystem health and, ultimately, global stability. Each broken shell, bleached coral, and altered behavioral cue signals cascading effects still unfolding across unseen ecosystems. As the ocean's chemistry shifts, it challenges life to adapt, evolve, or perish, echoing eerie warnings from a realm that never sleeps. What shadows and specters await us in depths where light never penetrates? How will the deep ocean, keeper of ancient secrets and resilient life, confront the man-made dawn? The answer remains a haunting question etched beneath the waves. In the shadowed realms of the deep ocean, where pressure forges life into forms both wondrous and alien, humanity's fingerprints catalyze a terrifying evolution. Shrimp scuttle across toxic sediments, their exoskeletons hardening with metallic infusions from leaked heavy metals, turning fragile shells into armored fortresses. Transparent fish glide through chemical murk, their bodies developing acute sensitivity to electric fields humming from buried cables. Gelatinous predators pulse with synthetic luminescence, ingesting plastics that ignite eerie glows within translucent forms. These adaptations emerge not from natural selection alone, but from our relentless intrusion, pollution, heat, and noise reshaping the abyss. What horrors birth in this hybrid crucible where technology merges with biology? The deep sea evolves at breakneck speed, whispering of life forms that may outpace our understanding. Schools of lanternfish flicker erratically, senses rewired to detect sonar pings amid the chaos. Mystery cloaks these changes, a mild dread in every mutated gleam. Consider the amphipods, tiny scavengers thriving on plastic detritus, their metabolisms shifting to digest synthetic polymers once deemed indigestible. Enzymes evolve in generations, breaking down polyethylene into energy, fueling populations that explode across debris fields. These plastic-fueled hordes carpet ghost nets, outcompeting native grazers in a silent takeover. Fish preying on them accumulate toxins, their flesh glowing faintly under blacklight from fluorescent additives. Have we seeded an unstoppable wave of hybrid feeders, resilient to our poisons? Larger crustaceans follow suit, claws laced with cadmium granting resistance to acidic plumes. Bioluminescent bacteria hitch rides, turning scavengers into living lanterns that lure prey through perpetual night. The seafloor pulses with this new vigor, unnatural yet thriving. Horror simmers as food webs invert, apex becoming base in evolution's grim rewrite. Deeper in midnight zones, jellyfish clans dominate, their bells incorporating microfibers that enhance buoyancy and venom potency. Stings now deliver neurotoxins amplified by persistent pollutants, paralyzing squid mid-hunt with unnatural swiftness. These drifters form vast blooms around warm effluents, reproducing parthenogenetically in feverish cycles. Tentacles trail like spectral veils, ensnaring drones mistaking them for prey in the gloom. What ancient instincts awaken, twisted by our chemical gifts into predatory supremacy. Transparent eels weave through cable fields, electroreceptors hypertrophied to sense data pulses as navigation beacons. They cluster unnaturally, schooling in rhythms mimicking signal traffic. The water thickens with their presence, oxygen drawn into metabolic frenzy. Adaptation blurs into aberration, birthing ecology's alien to Earth's archives. Anglerfish lurk transformed, lures pulsing with ingested phosphors from satellite wreckage, drawing schools into toothy maws aglow with false promise. Their scales iridesce with metallic sheens, camouflaging amid rusting hulls turned toxic reefs. Reproduction accelerates under nutrient surges, eggs hatching into swarms that overwhelm rivals. Deep-sea squids flash patterns echoing human sonar, communicating across trenches in borrowed code. Are these signals evolution's mimicry or emergent intelligence responding to our noise? Barnacles encrust probe hulls, shells fortified against pressure waves from mining tests. Worms tunnel into fiber optics, siphoning warmth to incubate broods. The abyss teems with these chimeras, beauty laced with dread. Every glow hints at futures where our waste becomes their strength. In hadal trenches, isopods mutate most grotesquely, bodies elongating with polymer reinforcements, mandibles grinding nodules laced with rare earths. They swarm collector scars, scavenging remnants that fuel hyperactive metabolisms defying starvation. Vision sharpens to pierce sediment plumes, hunting blinded natives amid the fallout. Colonies form eusocial hives around vent leaks, queens birthing legions resistant to thermal spikes. What hive minds coalesce in this pressured forge, plotting migrations toward surface lights. Snails evolve symbiotic algae glowing from plastic dyes, photosynthesizing faintly in twilight depths. Predators evolve counters, beaks dissolving synthetics to access nutrient-rich guts. The evolutionary arms race accelerates, propelled by our folly. Horror resides in their purposeful swarms, shadows lengthening across barren expanses. These shadow evolutions ripple upward, mutated plankton ascending currents to taint midwater fisheries with bioaccumulated toxins. Surface predators falter, senses dulled by electric hypersensitivity overwhelming natural cues. Coral atolls bleach not from heat alone, but from acidic excretions of plastic-adapted grazers. Have we architected a biosphere where deep mutations cascade to doom sunlit realms? Echoes of this change haunt hydrophone arrays, clicks evolving into choruses, calls laced with metallic resonance. Fish schools fracture, individuals veering toward cable hums in trance-like obedience. The deep's response manifests in flesh, fin, and glow, a mirror to our digital age. Suspense builds as probes capture coordinated hunts, too deliberate for instinct alone. Nature reclaims our refuse, forging monstrosities in darkness. Yet amid dread, awe stirs at resilience. Life persisting, innovating amid apocalypse. Bacteria consortia detoxify plumes, exporting clean niches for symbionts. Worms engineer burrows channeling cable heat into nurseries. What symbiotic webs emerge, more intricate than coral labyrinths? Gelatinous empires stabilize currents, filtering toxins in vast gauzy filters. Predators hone precision, culling weak hybrids to refine the gene pool. The abyss births not just survivors, but overlords attuned to our intrusions. Questions haunt. Do they sense us as progenitors or predators? Bioluminescent symphonies synchronize hunts across basins, a network rivaling our own. Evolution in shadows crafts beauty from blight, terror from tenacity. From trenches upward, hybrid life pulses with vigor born of invasion, challenging notions of natural and artificial. Shrimp legions march over seafloor scars, seeding recovery with fortified spawn. Glowing predators silhouette against probe beams, eyes reflecting curiosity or cunning. Have we ignited a renaissance where technology tempers biology's forge? Methane vents host metallic extremophiles, stabilizing clathrates against further melt. The deep ocean, scarred yet surging, embodies existential thrill, our legacy woven into its warp. Mystery endures in every adaptation, mild horror in intelligence glimpsed through static. What watchful forms circle our lights, pondering the architects above? The shadows evolve, whispering retorts across the void, demanding we witness our creation's awakening.